What's up, guys? Dylan here from 8 Deadly Sins. Welcome to Tarantula Thursday. Today we're going to be rehousing one of my favorite species, probably one of in my top 5, the Cyriopagopus species Bach, the Bach earth tiger. She is an adult female. I cupped her up already. Here she is here. She's big, gorgeous. I'll get a better shot of her here in a little bit, but I cupped her up before the video. That way that part's over. That way we can resume with the rehousing part. So we'll get a better shot of her here in a little bit. Let's get to it. All right, Cyriopagopus species Bach. They are from the Bach National Park in Thailand. So they get relatively high humidity. They get a lot of rainfall, a lot of plants and trees and things like that grow there. A lot of foliage. So we're gonna set the enclosure up just so they're from natively. One thing I tell people all the time is don't pay attention to many care sheets. Always Google and look at images and look at the weather and temperatures and things like that of where these animals come from. It's going to be your best bet. It's going to be better than any care sheet. Not saying that all care sheets are bad, but it's always best to see where the animal originates and then, go from there, set up their enclosure, basically exactly how they would live out in the wild, and then go from there. That way you're giving the animal its best life. So let's get started with the enclosure build. So the reason we're rehousing her today is because, as most of you know, with fossorials that keep fossorial tarantulas, sometimes they tend to leave a bolus, down on the bottom, and then it starts to grow mold. It starts to look really gross. It's not particularly harmful for the tarantula. However, I like to keep my enclosures, relatively clean. Plus, she's been on the same substrate for probably a year or two, so it's about time for an upgrade. Today I will be using Eco Earth instead of my normal jungle mix. My store was sold out of jungle mix, so Eco Earth will have to do for now. All it is, I don't buy the bricks. I just buy the loose cocoa fiber. So we'll fill this up a pretty good amount, and you'll see how simple it is to keep fossorial tarantulas. They're some of my favorites because you don't have to really tend to them. They kind of just do their own thing within their enclosure. So this Eco Earth has been pretty good. It's definitely more fine than a lot of substrates. You can use jungle mix. Reptisoil works great. You can use basically any substrate. Peat moss, if you wanted to go out to Lowe's and grab a big bag of peat moss, you can use that, mix it with a little bit of sand. I'm personally too lazy to make my own substrate right now. Plus, it's just more cost effective just to buy, the pre-made stuff. So that's looking good. We'll go for one more scoop, and then I think we'll call it good on that. Yep, should be good. Break up all the clumps. The only thing about this cocoa fiber is there is clumps in here, which not a big deal. You can go in and kind of break them up like that. So there's the substrate. Okay. And I'm building this thing backwards. I gotta keep that in mind, so I don't build it, completely wrong for you guys. So what I like to do is grab a piece of cork bark. Let me see if I have a piece here. Without having to sacrifice, you guys should know that feeling, having to sacrifice a piece of cork bark. I don't really want to break this piece, but sometimes you have to. Let's see. This is one of those kind of pieces I don't really want to break, but we'll do it. It didn't really break where I wanted it. Let's try it again. Try not to bust. See how it's like starting to break down the side? I'm trying not to do that. Let's see. Trying to keep some leverage on the back. That way it doesn't make a complete mess. There we go. Okay. So what I like to do is I like to bury this in there as kind of a starting point for the tarantula to be able to, you know, burrow herself down under the piece of cork bark, if she so chooses this spot. Hopefully she does. Try to encourage her to, you know, use this spot, and for her to be like, oh, okay, well, this is going to be my hangout spot. So there's that. And then I'll show you guys how it looks. So you can cut this down a little bit more, and, you know, toss some on top here, and, you know, make kind of like a, if you think of like a hillside on the side of the road, you know, when you're driving, you know, on the side of the road, the hillsides. So if you think of something like that, it's kind of like what you want to mimic, you know, kind of like that. And she'll burrow down right here in this spot, I'm hoping. So you always make sure that cork bark is nice and secure. You don't want it wiggly. It drives me nuts when it's wiggly like that. So, and what we're gonna do is spray some water down, and I'll show you guys just like this. See how the water's going down to the bottom? That's kind of what we want. We want it to be damp towards the bottom layers, because you want to keep these guys pretty humid. Talking probably 70 to 80% humidity at tops. So you want it to absorb as much moisture as you can get it to absorb. And then we'll go around this side. And sometimes if you have it already mixed in the bin with a little bit of water, you don't really have to do this part because it's already moist enough. But since this is just out of the bag, it'll need to be a little bit dampened down like that. Perfect. Perfect. Okay. And then now what I like to do is get a cup like this, put some water in it, and this will be for some moss. To fill it up like that, set this aside. And all I use is the Zoomed terrarium moss. You can use other mosses. I know a lot of companies make moss nowadays. It just depends on what you need, you know, what you're looking for. Just make sure whatever moss you use that it doesn't have dyes in it, so you don't end up with a green tarantula. A good way to test for dyes is by doing what I'm doing here. You know, soaking it in water. If your water turns green, chances are there's dyes in it. But as you can see, I'm just kind of breaking it up right now. As you can see here, that water is crystal clear. So there's no dyes in there. But if your water starts turning green, chances are there's dyes. I mean, again, it's not harmful for your tarantula. However, I wouldn't want a green spider, especially one that I can prevent, you know, if I didn't buy like dyed moss. So what we're gonna do here is kind of just layer it. You can squeeze the water right in here because it's just water. So just kind of layer it like that. Make it look, you know, again, you want to make it look kind of like a hillside on the side of the road, you know, if that makes any sense. She'll burrow down in here and she'll feel nice and secure. Okay. Just wipe that on my shorts because today's laundry day anyways. We're going to set this water aside. Okay. Now for a water dish, I've just been using these. These are the 2-ounce deli cups. So we'll move this moss down here a little bit. Make a little area. What I like to do is I like to put their water dishes on the opposite side of their burrow. So their burrow's right here. Put it in the back because when they're tossing dirt out, you don't really want a water dish full of dirt if you can prevent it, you know. So we're going to go ahead and put a little hole here. Gonna pack that in there. Make sure your moss isn't in your water, because if your moss is in your water, it'll act like a sponge and it'll leach all the water out from your water dish, and you'll be driving yourself crazy wondering why your water dish is getting empty all the time, and it's been your moss this whole time. It's happened to me. It's happened to a few people that I know. It's one of those unnecessary stresses, you know. So there's that. Fill it up. Make sure it's nice and level. And it looks like the water is getting nice and soaked down in there, which is great. Looks good, looks good. If you wanted to add a little more water, you can. If you do add more water, just give it time to dry out. You know, you don't want it like a swamp down in her burrow. You just want it, you know, kind of damp. So let's go ahead and we'll get her in here, and we'll get a good look at her. Okay, so again, these are an old world from Thailand, so they can be a little bit feisty. So just take your time. What I like to do is put the cup in here, and you're going to gently just kind of coax her in here. If she doesn't want to back up, you can push her forward and see if she wants to go forward. And there's a threat pose. Okay. And just stay calm, you guys. Stay calm. Okay. Bam, she's in there. Let me grab the camera. We can get a look at her. There she is. She is quite large, and you might be wondering, hey, why would she be in this little enclosure? These fossorial tarantulas, they don't really get around much. So she spent all of her time down in that burrow. And you know, with how deep it is, she has plenty of room to make a burrow, to be comfortable. She's laid egg sacs in here before. She's lived her whole life in here just comfortably. Try to get a good shot of her. She is a stunner for sure. Next molt, once she molts, I'm going to look into pairing her again. I did have a male here, but he really didn't want to get the job done, so we'll go ahead and try again next molt. But yep, this is Cyriopagopus species Bach Ma, and this is how I set them up. And she's fine in here, damp substrate. She's got her little tunnel there. I'm not going to reach in there because right now she's a little on edge because, you know, new house and stuff, but she'll settle in and she'll find that burrow, and by tonight probably she'll be down in there. You'll never see her again. That's why I like to get a picture right now. She does look a little plump. Chances are she might be coming up on a molt, which is good because I know a few people with males right now that are relatively fresh. So if she does molt, that would be awesome. Get her bred, have little baby Bach Ma. All right, guys, what'd you think about that? So here she is in her brand new house. No more mold, no more gross, nasty bolus in her burrow. Again, you know, Asian fossorials, as you can see, yeah, they're a little temperamental, but stay calm. You know, as soon as you start panicking, they start panicking. Everybody is running around like a crazy man, and you're gonna lose control of the situation, so to say, and that's how bites happen. As you can see there, even when she was throwing a threat pose, you just kind of, you know, keep contact with her. You know, make sure she's in a better mood, you know, once she throws that threat pose, and see if you can maybe coax her out of that enclosure or out of that cup into the new enclosure. That way your job's done there. Put the lid on and you're done. I know a lot of people that are afraid of Asian fossorials, but I'm here to tell you firsthand that they're not really that terrible. Honestly, most of my personal collection here is Asian fossorials, so if you ever have any questions, just feel free to ask. I have a lot of friends that keep Asian fossorials as well, so if I'm not available, they are. You know, it's all just about patience. Patience is a virtue. That's an old saying that will go a long way in this hobby. As always, thank you guys for watching, and I will see you next Thursday.